مساء الخير مستمعينا الكرام، واهلا وسهلا فيكم بحلقه الاخيره الاسبوعيه من برنامجكم بقعه امل سبار اوف هوب. والليله بيصيرنا نستضيف ضيف عزيز وغالي علينا، الاخ والصديق علي السيد, founder of Hype Athletics. علي, thank you for being here. Welcome.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
حبيبي, thank you so much. مستمعينا الكرام, الليله نحكي عن المخدرات, كيف عم تنتشر بين شبابنا, الاسباب, طرق العلاج, مصادر المخدرات, وش فينا نعمل احنا كأفراد كجمعيات اجتماعية وصحية ودور عبادة وطبية وإلى ما هنالك. ولكن قبل ما نفوت بالحلقة بدنا بس نحيي جميع المستمعين مرة ثانية والمشاهدين. شكرا على دعمكم من شهر 8. Please make sure that you share the video, make comments, ask your questions. We're going to pick them up and ask Ali. Ali is the expert. Ali beside Hype. Ali عندهم safe. He has been heavily involved in tackling this epidemic issue in our community. So this is a very important show. Unfortunately, a lot of our loved ones have passed away to this danger threat. So كمان بنحيي واتس اب ميديا نتورك على اتاحتنا الفرصه لنا كل اسبوع لحتى نطلع ونشارككم مع جيستس مميزين ومواضيع جدا مهمه. وطبعا تحيه لسنينج ارابيك تي في, اكثر من 130 اذاعه عربيه مشاهده بلس بام سبورتس. لتحصلوا على مشاركة مجانية لمدة أسبوع. كل اللي عليكم تعملوه إنكم تتواصلوا مع واتساب ميديا نتورك ستاف وتحصلوا على 1 week free membership. علي, أهلا وسهلا فيك مرة ثانية. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
As I talked in the introduction, we'll be talking about the drugs, the reasons, resources, the sources of the drugs. Why is it spreading so rapidly among our youth, young, old? Why we're losing a lot of loved ones? So we're going to tackle that step at a time. Let's start with the assessment. Where did it start? Where do you think the whole issue rooted?
Well, I mean, historically, drugs in humanity started off as medicine. And we can go back to the Native Americans, we can go back to parts of the world, and they used holistic medicine, for treatment. Unfortunately, let's come to the modern era, and today the problems lie within, a multitude of different areas, such as the pharmaceutical industry, the illegal drug trade industry, and the use, the misuse, and the abuse of different types of both medications and illicit street drugs have really impacted our community. So to identify the exact, core root, it's a capitalistic market. So you're seeing a lot of people pushing these substances onto people because there's a lot of money behind it. And in fact, billions and billions and billions of dollars around the world are traded for these illegal substances.
Awesome. Where's the legal entities? I mean, so if it started all as a remedies or medication, which is a good use, right?
Sure.
If we don't misuse it and abuse it, and then it started to become more profitable and market. Like where is the let's say about Dearborn, for example, so we can narrow it down, so for our people to have even better idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So in Dearborn, where that came from? Is it that, some people say, not necessarily my perspective or yours, but some people say, well, because we neighbor certain cities and they are coming out of the city and they are coming to our schools. So where do you think, from your experience as an advocate tackling this issue, where things have started?
Specifically for the Dearborn community, again, it's hard to pinpoint. Are there a lot of drugs in the city of Detroit? Let's just call it what it is. Yeah. Are there a lot of illegal black market drug deals taking place in the city of Detroit? Yes. Is it the go-to place in the past, is it the go-to place for drugs? Yeah, it was. But today, you don't need to go to Detroit to get the drugs that you want. And the biggest thing, the biggest misconception is, is it considered illegal if you go to the doctor and the doctor prescribes you psychotic or pain medications that are narcotics, that are highly addictive, that basically draw you in for more and more of that medication on a monthly basis? So where do we identify this root? What's the root cause of this problem? Well, there's, again, so many avenues, and let's talk about what we call at-risk factors. Was there enough prevention and education that was offered to families, to community leaders, to law enforcement, to EMS officials, first responders, to children, that not only taught them of the different types of drugs that are out there, but the consequences and the effect that these medications have on a family. Now, I'm not advocating for exposing third graders to cocaine and heroin and methamphetamine. No, what I am advocating for is to identify a source of prevention type programs that allow for kids to be educated, that allow for students to be educated, and to change their environments. Sometimes as one of the other risk factors would be the environment that these kids are brought up in. Are they living in a depressive state, a depressive home? Are they single parent households? Do they have low socioeconomic status amongst their household? Do they lack academically? Believe it or not, the statistics are alarming as far as kids that are either truant, which skip school often, which use drugs, which cause violent crimes or even petty crimes, that are basically part of that society that we frown upon. It starts off at elementary school, where they provided with the amount of resources that they needed to advance academically. So that's the first start, right? So are we developing these youth mentally and cognitively initially? The other thing is, another risk factor that we have is the blind trust of a lot of the physicians out there. Yes. Why'd you smirk?
Huh?
I love you.
I like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to laugh, I couldn't.
Okay.
At the blind, kind of funny. I mean, I'm not blind, but I can relate.
Okay. But again, the overwhelming trust to the doctors, to the extent where, look, there's 90% of our physicians are amazing at what they do, loving, caring, compassionate doctors and professionals that care about their patients sincerely. But there are, and that number of physicians that are, growing in the sense where they're after wealth, not health of their patients, by developing what we call a reoccurring model where patients come in for substances or for medications that are required on a monthly basis, sometimes for the rest of their lives. So when you see someone with high blood pressure, well, we all have high blood pressure. It depends on the day. It depends on what we're going through. It depends on what we've ate. Yep. For that day, we all have lower high blood pressures, and they alternate. This is a variable of life. What heals high blood pressure? Diet, exercise, and so on. So, but for a doctor, if he gives you that good advice of taking the nutritional route, the exercise and fitness route, then
stop eating this, stop eating that.
You're not going to be taking the high blood pressure medication that you need to get only by way of office visit, only by way of prescription. Sure. Same goes for the misdiagnosis of a lot of the psychotic medications. A lot of kids these days, and look, I hate to say it this way, but parents don't know how to parent. I, as a parent, am learning daily, hourly, how to react to certain circumstances that are brought to my attention by my kids. A lot of our parents in our community today, are not making the right choices when it comes to their kids. Sometimes their kids are hyper, or don't eat when they ask them to eat, or don't sleep, or sleep too much, or are isolated, and parents don't know how to act to that.
So they go to the easy way of pills.
Going to the doctors.
Yes.
No, going to the doctors, and they go to their primary care physician, and the primary care physician, without properly completing a mental or emotional evaluation. What they normally go through, psychiatrists go through, is an evaluation on their clients to determine the levels of anxiety, depression, stress. I mean, there's over 50 different types of severe and any type of mental illnesses that have been identified.
Sure. So then the blame is kind of laid down on the doctors, the medical body, and the parents. But doesn't it start at the home, though?
Well,
because that's a major thing, though.
350 million people in this country, Khodr, and the pharmaceutical giants, they're not trying to reach out to us at home and say, hey, You know, we got the answer for your problem. Here's, try this medication. They don't sell it to us. They sell it to the doctors. You know, and I'm not putting the blame on the doctors solely. You know, Big Pharma created these medications. They are the #1 killer. They're our worst enemy. They are the strongest army that America's ever faced.
And I saw that
And the world has ever
posted on
faced.
Facebook.
I did say that on Facebook,
Yes.
and you know, it's time to put them on notice that we know what their game is. We know what their agenda is, and you know, it's time to also call out our politicians who are receiving dollars from pharmaceutical giants and one of their established entities that they create for fundraising. You know, those politicians that receive any type of dollar from Big Pharma need to be called out as well. Regulations need to be created that restricts pharmaceutical or businesses in the medical field from endorsing or donating to politicians who are allowing them to do whatever they want to do under the sun.
So basically, if we're talking about the pharmaceutical and being gigantic and that influential, therefore, I mean, they can't be touched, at least immediately. So therefore, we have to do a few things through preventative factors at our level, right? We have to protect our backyard.
We absolutely have to start within our home, within our block, within our neighborhood, within our community. And there's a lot of ways to do that. So we go back to education, and education is critical. It's our #1 weapon, obviously. We say that in every forefront.
Yes.
So educating ourselves in the sense where, you know, parents, again, are extremely well informed, that have and understand how to research the medications that are being prescribed to them, understanding the side effects and short-term and long-term effects of that medication. You know, in addition to that, we have you know, the leaders, the community leaders, the teachers, the educators, the principals. You know, 8 hours out of the day, your child is with a teacher in a school, socially adapting with other individuals, you know, in other environments.
That's almost half a day.
It's almost, I mean, it's a third of their day, and the other third they're sleeping, and the other third they're at home, you know, probably on their phones,
Sure.
you know, and being exposed to through the video games. I mean, we watch the Super Bowl and we watch, you know, different sporting events, and they're pushing the one of the biggest killers in this country's history, alcohol. They push it like it's their job. When are we going to wake up and say, okay, the leading cause of death on the road through accidents is driving under the influence of alcohol, right? So why are we still promoting alcohol like it's cool, it's good? I don't understand. Doesn't make sense.
So then it is a bond, like mutual benefit, you know, among, you know, doctors, politicians, and pretty much moneymakers. They seem to have it the easiest way to make a lot of profit.
Well, you know, again, you know, politicians, I'm talking about the congressmen, senators, you know, those
the
large,
national, yes.
those large,
Offices.
positions, as well as the lobbying groups that represent them, you know, are also pushing and representing Big Pharma, you know. So there's so many angles that support what is going on because of the capitalistic opportunities that have been created, that you know, the battle is amongst us to fight against everybody, and not literally fists and guns. I'm talking fight by knowledge, by education, by stopping it within your own house.
Sure.
Identifying it and teaching yourself, and you know, teaching others how to cope with these problems, and to eliminate the stigma. Right? We're a prideful society. We have so much pride.
Yes.
But if we have a child on drugs in our household,
We have to admit it.
we are ashamed to admit it, because that boy or girl brings shame upon our prideful family.
Yes.
And if that gets exposed, then, you know, Ali Sayyid is embarrassed or ashamed by the community because he failed as a father, right?
Yes.
And then, God forbid, someone's child passes away. Well, the last thing they want to know is that he passed away because I failed as a father, or they failed as a father or a mother, right? So how do we fix that? They're victims, right? Sure. The family's been victimized. The child has been victimized.
We have cultural stigma also, as you talked about it.
Well, look, the cultural stigma is a made-up stigma. We're in America. Okay, stigma, cultural related, religious related. You know, there's politicians, elected officials whose children are on drugs.
Sure, rich people even, I mean.
It does not discriminate anymore, you know. So, you know, this keeping things on a hush hush is primarily because it satisfies their own ego, and it's disappointing to say the least, because they coming out and discussing the problems that they have with their children allows for others to learn, allows for them to learn. More importantly, allows for an outpouring of love that will come from the community that would help their case, whatever their case may be.
Maybe they think that they lose respect. We're going to continue with you, but before we continue, I have to thank all the listeners and the audience out there. Thanks so much for listening. Keep on sharing the video and making comments, ask questions. We'll pick them up shortly. We'll see. Are there any questions on Facebook? Are you Ali following on Facebook yourself?
I'm not right now.
You're not? We'll see if there are any questions because we don't have a break. Usually we used to have a break at 8 o'clock, but last week's show and this week's this show today, we won't have a break. So we'll try to compile them. If there are any questions, we'll take them as we go. But please keep on sharing the video, ask questions, and we'll continue. Ali, so basically, in the midst of all of that, what you, as Ali Sayyid, you woke up one day, how did you tap into this yourself and what you are doing today to work around these reasons and everything that you were talking about? How are we trying to help our community?
That's a great question. So, I started HYPE in 2001. We had the mission of providing athletic programs that allowed for kids to develop socially, physically, mentally, to advocate for unity, acceptance, and tolerance, to have a drug-free, violent-free, and diverse athletic environment. So sports was the key for me because I loved sports as a kid. But, parents would come to me and say, hey, Ali, my son or my daughter are obese, or they're smoking cigarettes, or they are, in a sense,
not doing good at school,
struggling in class, hanging out with bad kids,
so
drinking
role
alcohol,
model.
Whatever it was. And Ali, they love you, they respect you.
Nice.
HYPE is such an impact on our kids. Can you please talk to them?
Sure.
Well, now I became a counselor at the age of 26,
Nice, yes.
like teaching kids how to play basketball, but because
honor,
I have
man.
them as an honor, it was an honor, but because I have their audience, I have their attention, I took advantage of it. And by 2008, we had a fully pledged program that included, tutoring and mentoring and counseling and life skills programming, substance abuse education, career development, health education. So we incorporated all these social services for kids.
Sure.
But that's still not how I got into this field, because back then it was simply, let's develop prevention-based programs. Let's control the environment that the kids are in. And during that time we have them, we know that there's going to be a positive impact. There's going to be no influence on these children to commit crime.
So just spreading aware, just we're opening up a subject, pretty
much,
like introducing it.
About 4.5 years ago, I was approached with our first client. And you all know very well who that client is.
Yes.
Hajj Rabi'.
Absolutely, and he was our guest at some point too.
Yeah.
Hajj Rabi' is amazing, and big shout out to him. I mean, he overcame an incredible.
He is a wonderful role model for me.
Yes.
I mean,
I was shocked and surprised. I won't lie to you. I mean, I was moved by his story and the numbers that he used to, that he shared with us. Like, for example, remember, like he said something. To pass out, even to die, average, abuser, you have to, let's say, inject 20, and then he has to take 50, for example. I mean, like double, triple. And he came from death, as we say.
And going back to stigma
Yes.
and the shame and the pridefulness, everything happens for a reason. I think he understood that, not to speak on his own experiences.
Yes.
But so I was approached by a
Rabia?
mutual friend that introduced me to Rabia and said,
So before he was clean, right?
he was clean for a month or two.
At that time, okay.
At that time, yeah,
Okay.
if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
So I was asked if I would employ him. I looked at him and I'm like, no problem, under the conditions that he remain clean and trustworthy and honest and reliable and dependable
Sure.
and motivated and all these other factors. And let's give him a shot. I was really inexperienced as to how to deal with people that are in recovery, but fortunately he was able to teach me quite a bit. And then after that, God sent another lady and her husband over, and they said that their daughter was, consuming drugs on the streets. And I was just scratching my head, and I couldn't believe that I'm hearing that one of our daughters, one of our girls, is barefoot, more than likely prostitution and overuse and abuse and, taking the worst types of drugs. So we fortunately got that individual clean as well. And then it just began to grow from there. And I guess God, I guess he called me to do this work. Now, I'm not going to lie. I don't get up in the morning and say, I can't wait to find somebody on drugs to help them get clean. I would rather fight the fight against big pharma and against the doctors that are illegally prescribing and the pharmacists that are illegally prescribing. I'd rather educate our families. I'd rather prevent our kids. I'd rather divert problems such as kids who are under the age of 17 and have committed crime or smoked weed or drank alcohol and got caught. Let's get them clean. I'd rather take every kid that's performing low academically and offer a free tutoring program to make sure that those kids don't get on drugs. This field is an ugly field. It's an ugly field. Yes, we're saving lives. 100% over 500 lives SAFE has saved. 100%. And provided opportunities for some of our members of the SAFE community to go to Hajj to seek the ultimate forgiveness and to basically rebirth and start all over. So are there a lot of factors of intervention that I'm proud of that we've accomplished? Absolutely. Do I see it in the faces and the smiles of the individuals that we have saved? Absolutely.
And now they run your facilities too.
And they run our facilities, and they're employed, and they're grateful, and yet we still lose some, and we have to bury some of our loved ones. I love these individuals, but all we can do and all they ask for indirectly is for love, compassion, and hope.
Sure.
And that's all we can give them.
Absolutely. And let me ask this question. You've been talking about the stigma. I love something about what you have been doing, that you didn't fall into that, meaning you opened up an opportunity for them that changed their life forever. Not only they became employed, independent financially, and they got back on their feet, but also spiritually, as you've been mentioning. I mean, they've been clean, spiritually way stronger, and then they even went to Hajj. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Now,
this year we're sending 3 people to Hajj.
Awesome.
And it's
God
always
bless you.
fundraised by our community. The
God
community
bless you.
donates
God bless
that.
our community, absolutely.
Every single year, our community contributes all the funding to send that person to Hajj. Because we're all volunteer-based out of SAFE. There's not a single dollar we collect or earn or benefit from for the work that we do.
Sure. But the question was, how many people out there, how many employers out there, how many business owners out there are going to have the same belief, the same like you had, in these people, even if they have been clean for months and years? Because let me tell you, be honest with you, I run a lot of stories that say, I'm not going to employ this X or Y because they had been on drugs for this long. Even, but you say, for example, they've been clean, I mean. So how many people like you, though, you think that they're going to be open and they're willing to give them an opportunity?
You'd be surprised. Our community is the best community in this country.
Absolutely.
And I say that with so much confidence.
So I didn't mean my community. I just meant like overall.
Overall.
Yes.
So overall,
our community is the best. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
We're not trying to
Yeah. So overall,
brag here, but
the federal government has programs,
Mm-hmm.
resocialization programs. The state of Michigan has programs. We're hoping to launch programs. The jails have programs. The district courts, the Wayne County courts, the local courts are all developing programs. Our Second Chance program through SAFE is a partnered program with the 19th, 20th, and the 22nd District Court, where we offer these offenders that commit petty crimes for drug use, or if they're caught on the streets, overdosed or whatever, and they have to preside before a court. We have our Second Chance program allows for them to go into our custody for 2 years. So there's a lot of initiatives that are out there by people that are doing good work. Mm-hmm. This is a non-compete field.
Sure.
There has to be that. Anyone whose
alternative,
whose motive is different, then you'll see who they are and what they do. But this is a non-compete field. in a sense where it's a partner or parish field at the same time. We have to all do this together or we all fail. Everybody that's against drugs, everybody that's against these kids from dying, Shababna, right?
Yes.
Anyone who feels, who has kids, whose kids go to our schools, who lives in a neighborhood with kids or on a block with kids, it's your responsibility to learn about the different substances, to learn about certain behaviors, to do your part to improve and strengthen our communities and to strengthen the quality of life in our communities. It's all of our responsibilities. If you're against it, then we're on the same team. It's very simple.
It's, I mean, at the end, it's one community and one family, and as we
course.
say, in a whole box, one bad tomato might, mess up the whole box. I mean, at the end, we have to care about one another because it is a big responsibility. Our kids go to the same schools.
I get the analogy.
Same parks.
Yeah, I get the analogy, but in our case, the box of tomatoes can heal that one bad tomato.
Sure.
Sure. But it's going to have to take all of us to do that.
Absolutely, everybody. So let me ask you about SAFE.
Yeah.
You guys just purchased a facility. Is that going to be willing to open up to just treatments or?
Yeah, so we, obviously due to the demand, we've been referring clients to a lot of rehab centers across the state of Michigan. And,
okay.
The number of rehab centers we refer to have become smaller and lesser, over the time because we've become, accustomed to a certain quality of service, and
Yes.
continuum of care. And the problem is, we're seeing a lot of rehab centers that we're starting to call revolving doors. They detox you and they provide you with your short-term residential treatment.
They let you out.
They let you out, and there's no continuum of care. Now they think that 21 days of rehab is going to be the answer. So then they created these outpatient services, and these outpatient services are all financially driven. So we bought a place in Lincoln Park, and God sent us to this place. It was actually a church that we bought. And the church is a beautiful facility that was built in the 60s. And it was built with a housing component for their nuns and their priests. And they have several facilities on this 5.5, 6 acre parcel that include housing, that include vocational training,
Amazing.
all the above. There's beds in there, bedroom showers. Every bedroom has a shower. So we really were fortunate.
So it's fit then, huh?
It worked,
wow.
yeah. But our policy, our philosophy of care is going to be a little different. We'll have psychiatrists and social workers and therapists and hypnotherapists and chiropractors and physical therapists on board. We'll have doctors and nurse practitioners and nurses and case managers and peer recovery coaches on board. But what's going to be unique about this facility is it's big enough to fit 150 beds, but we chose to only fit 24. And the reason is we chose quality over quantity. The larger portion of this facility is going to be used for recovery. And we sat down with a group of individuals that are in recovery and asked them, of their experiences and what they would like to see in a rehab center. And a lot of these rehab centers, Khodr, have specifically beds, maybe a small room for group therapy, nothing else. A small little kitchen where they can dine and eat, but nothing else. So our room is going to be different. We are going to put a prayer room. We are going to put a yoga section, a gym for them to exercise, physical rehab, right? Mental and emotional rehab. There'll be a classroom, computer lab, a library, several group therapy rooms, a movie theater, and then a rec room for pool, ping pong, foosball, things like that. Yeah. So there's also going to be a visitation section where we're planning to put a playground set. We're planning to put an outdoor pavilion, outdoor sports center where we have outdoor basketball and tennis courts. We are going to have vocational training with wood shop. We're working with the Carpenters Union and the millwrights to teach these individuals how to re-socialize themselves back into society, to get the careers that they need to provide for their families. Yeah. And the emotional connection with their children. It takes months for someone in recovery to feel again, from what we've witnessed.
Sure.
And we've been blessed to see the desire to see what they have lost and to want to see what they have lost, and that's their children. In the process, there's We have cases where our clients have completely lost their children, like due to in the foster care system. But the state has a program where, there's a reintegration program where they can see their kids, and over time, if they heal,
Okay.
the parent can take the child back. So, we've been able to witness that, and if anything is rewarding, that's rewarding, right?
Sure. So that's wonderful. How long are they going to stay there? Let's say if you found 24 patients.
Yeah.
For how long are they going to stay there?
Inpatient is 21 days.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just call it a month, 21 to 28 days. Outpatient will be for 23 months.
23 months, so
And
2
the
years.
outpatient services, they're going to include therapy, constant visits to psychiatrists and therapists and/or therapists. We'll have a medication-assisted treatment program where individuals that need medication will be offered it from our staff, so there's no risk of misuse or abuse.
Sure, and then they can use all the gym
Yeah.
and facilities.
And
And
then
stuff
they'll
like
have
that.
access to our facilities. Absolutely. So our program is 2 years.
Cool.
And the first month being inpatient. For the next year, they live in basically a 3-quarter recovery home. Mm-hmm. And that house has access to therapists and access to house managers that ensure that they're being taught structure on how to grocery shop and how to sleep normal and
Starting
clean up.
life all over again.
Yeah, starting life all over again,
Yeah.
And then after that 1 year, they move into a lower quarter home where there's typically 8 individuals in the first 3-quarter house in one home. They drop down to a home with 4 people. So then now they have to assume more responsibilities, pay rent, pay Comcast phones, whatever, right? All the utilities, all the bills. They got to
Yes.
take care of their own house. It's these 3 to 4 individuals that have, where they were sharing a room, now they all have their own bedroom. And then from there for 6 months after that, they live on their own. That's independent living. By a year and a half, 18 months or so, we have secured them a career pathway to provide for housing, food, shelter, transportation, enough to go back and redeem their children, or to go back to school, or whatever it may be. But we've had extreme success with that program.
Amazing. So you said earlier that you guys have touched over 500 lives,
Yeah,
right? That they
Yeah.
have recovered.
yeah.
Over 500 lives. That's amazing. How many among these are in our community? Like, are they all, meaning not from an Arab descent, or?
Yeah, 90% Arab.
Okay.
90% Arab is who we're catering to, if not more.
So does that show you that the stigma is kind of fading away a little bit?
No. So the families are seeking out for help because they don't know what else to do.
Okay. Which is a good thing, I mean, at least.
Yeah. And now what we're using is the clients are coming out and admitting and teaching. They want to help others because they've
been through it.
They've been through it, and they feel
It's like Hajj Rabia.
they feel great about themselves. Yeah.
Yes.
So if their leader, and their role model is
Yeah.
strong enough to admit it and talk about it, they all follow suit. And it's been beautiful when we go to like Fortson, or we go to different schools and talk to kids, and we take them and they tell their story. Like, hey, I played on the same football field you play on, and my life was great until that one day where I did this or drank that or smoked that, and from there it was a downhill spiral. And I hurt my back playing football, and they gave me this pill, and I took it, but I loved it, and it felt so good when I took it. But sooner than later, 1 wasn't enough, and I needed 2, and then 4, and then 8, and then
Went
the
up to the
numbers
higher
kept
one,
going.
yeah.
And like you said, people are consuming 20 pills a day, 30 pills a day. I mean, if you or I took 30 pills of Vicodin right now, our heart will stop.
Yes.
But they built a tolerance to consume 30 pills, 1 month's prescription in 1 day. And I know many people in our community are currently doing that. And those people, don't be afraid. You can get off of that. There's a way off of that addiction, and there's a way to get help for that.
Speaking of schools, and we'll touch on that in a little bit toward the end of the show, about what can we do as a community more as solutions, as prominent solutions. We talked about awareness, we talked about parents admitting, we're talking about demolishing the stigma, we talked about all of that. But as schools, you said that you have a partnership with the public schools.
We
and
do.
The police department and.
Yeah.
Tell us about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. We with Dearborn Schools, the Healthy Initiative is a partnered program between Dearborn Public Schools, SAFE, LAHC, Access, C-Assist, Heal, Move, Shift. So there's a group of organizations that are working.
Shout out to all of them, by the way. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Big shout out.
Yes.
You know, because again, as I had mentioned, this is a non-compete area of work.
Sure.
You know, so
It's a
fortunately,
collective
all of
team
us
effort,
are working together to offer an in-school, in-classroom service that focuses on substance abuse,
Okay.
alcohol, tobacco, drugs, illicit street drugs, vaping, hookah, and in addition to that, even suicide prevention. So our friends at C-Assist are taking the lead on suicide prevention and addressing the mental illnesses related to depression, anxiety, stress, and so on. You know, and identifying the triggers early enough to save the lives of
And
our
how's it
kids.
going so far? I mean,
So far, it's going wonderful. You know, the most important thing, and we just had a parent educational forum. So we're not only going to the schools, but we hold parent meetings to educate the families on what we're teaching their kids and educating the families on everything that they need to know as parents as to what's going on with this epidemic. But I was just at Woodworth, and I spoke to the parents there, and you know, it's amazing. It's amazing the desire to learn, the desire to, well, let's just put it this way, from the principal down, and everybody that's in that school, child, parent, everybody in between, have all understood that this problem is real.
yes.
This problem is very real.
It's a real threat.
It's a big threat.
Yes.
It's a big killer, and it's only going to get worse. So we, again, collectively have to work to address and, you know, eradicate this problem one way or another, and it's only going to be done this way. So it starts in the school. You know, as we said, 1/3 of their lives where social development is taking place is in the schools. So we rely heavily on our teachers. We rely heavily on our principals and obviously the parents to be involved. You know, parental involvement in activities, whether they're on the sports teams or not, is critical. You know, parents joining the PTAs, parents volunteering their time on field trips, parents understanding and attending parent-teacher conferences and understanding what's going on in the classroom, and more importantly, not to change the subject, right? But our kids are bored. That's why they're going to video games and phones. They're bored, and who are they bored from? Their parents.
So you think that the parents are not doing?
We
let's
have
say
to.
they're not going the extra mile to change.
They're
things
not,
up
because
and
parents are busy on Facebook and Instagram too. So let's think about it. Let's call a spade, right? Let's call it out. Our parents are boring. Our parents, you know, and obviously I'm not generally addressing every single parent out there. However, parents, you can unlock happiness, sadness, anger, frustration, every single emotion in your child with the time you spend with them. And,
it's tough.
Yeah, the time you spend with your parents is critical. Every lasting moment with your kids has to be a positive experience. And building as many memories as you can, taking them to not only dropping them off at Hype, but coming down with them and playing some basketball with them. And oftentimes we've been seeing parents do that. More often today than 19 years ago when we started off Hype, I see now parents even attending practices for their kids, training camps. They come and they sit and they watch. And this is extremely important because it builds a memory in their child that my mom, my dad took me and they watched me.
Yes.
Why
is it hard for parents to, I mean, if I can use that, I mean, obviously not one parent loves to see their loved one, dead or in a casket, but why is it easy for them to I'm going to say easy, but why is it that they wait without speaking about their issues publicly? Again, not generalizing, but a lot of them, and then until their loved one dies, and then they say he died or she died due to a heart attack. What's your take on it? Although a lot of our community members we see on social media say, well, they say is they died due to a heart attack, but in fact we know why they died, knowing that in some instances someone might die for real due to a heart attack, like he or she might.
So they're downplaying the heart attack.
Yes.
Everybody's having a heart attack at 21 and 25 years old nowadays.
So what's your take on that?
What's my take on that? Khodr, every family grieves differently, and
which we respect that.
Yeah, and grief doesn't need to be public. And we have to respect the right to privacy, and we have to respect the right for the family that has just buried their most precious gift, right? Mm-hmm. So not all cases does stigma relate. However, the brave ones that come out and say, my son did so and so, and whatnot, help others. Yes. Help others
pave the way so
they
others
help
can
others
speak
understand.
Yes.
And again, it's.
But how many of these brave parents compared to those that are still ashamed or hidden out there?
Look, some of it is shame, some of it is pride, some of it is guilt, right? So nonetheless, stigma is stigma, and there's all these factors that individuals stigmatize the death of a loved one. Not even the death, it could be just the lost loved one, the one that's on drugs, the one that ran away, the one that dropped out of school, the one that's working at they frown upon the gas station worker, they frown upon the son or daughter that's not a doctor or a pharmacist or lawyer. These are, we've set the bar so high and we've applied so much pressure. I got a story to tell you.
Sure.
A family with whose mom is an educator, whose father is an engineer, whose daughters and sons are all educated. One, the youngest, went to a school, and on college campuses, Adderall and amphetamines are prevalent. They're a must to some of these kids. Like you have to have them if you're going to pass this test. And it's unfortunate that our college campuses, which add on to the risk factors, aren't doing enough to educate and prevent the use of prescription psychotic medications. But they also have failed their students by not depressurizing the educational system, by not forcing it upon themselves to make it so competitive on their students that if you're not good enough to be here, they're gonna kick you out essentially.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. So this child is at school and he's in a dorm room with a friend and they're studying and they're in the same field academically, and the friend says, the dorm roommate says, would you like to try this? It's like Adderall. This young Arab kid from Dearborn has no idea what the heck he's talking about. So he takes this substance. Well, that substance ended up being crystal meth, which is an amphetamine times 1,000, right? It's Adderall times 1,000. And the comparison, Khodr, to that is, you put a quarter in a gumball machine, and the entire gumball machine pours out every gumball. You just won the jackpot.
Yes.
Right? You're like, oh my God, imagine you're a 4-year-old kid. Baba, can I have a quarter? You put it in, you turn the knob, and every gumball comes out to you. And you're like, oh my God, I won.
Just one quarter.
Okay? Yeah. The high that these individuals are gaining from these types of drugs is like a truckload of gumballs falling on them. Okay? And they continue to chase that high. And the first high is the high they keep chasing. All right? And that feel good that they get from Vicodin, from marijuana, from alcohol. You have quiet kids who drink, and when they drink, they're confident to speak and socialize. So they feel like the only way they can do that is to drink. You have kids who, suffer from all types of different issues, and they prefer to smoke marijuana. Look, there's so many things wrong with society today. So many things. Where to nab it, and where to what tail to cut off, because there's so many different tentacles to this thing. It's going to be hard. The main important thing, again, goes back to our number one weapon. It's education. Empower ourselves and our families to learn as much as we can about this topic, about the drugs, the side effects, the medications. I don't care what doctor gave it to you, ask. What's the side effect of Tamiflu? I want to know what Tamiflu does to me. Long term. Sure. My autoimmune system becomes dependent on it. It takes it over, rebuilds it. But what happens if I get sick again? Is my immune system, my natural immune system, weaker? You know, what are the side effects, short-term and long-term? Yes. We got to know NyQuil, Motrin. What does it do to our digestive system? What does NyQuil do to our mind when we sleep, and or to our bodies? You know, to our heart. Does it slow our heart rate down? There's so many side effects to everything.
Yes. Speaking of marijuana, legalizing marijuana in the state of Michigan, and trying to bring it to each city, which we know that Dearborn, you know, opt out of it temporarily until the regulations are out by the state. Other nearby cities like Allen Park also last November, they voted against it too. How is that also is it contributing? I mean, yes, I get it, that it's medical, but then how can we track, like how you as an advocate, how safe as an organization now is also, you know, communicating with Lansing, with the governor, with mayors, with county executives, like, you know, even you guys,
Khodr,
public officials.
It is such a long topic, the question you just asked me, but let me give it to you in short. Recreational marijuana is going to destroy this country, just as alcohol has. You think people can drive high? No. It's worse than driving drunk. You think they can drive a high-low high at work? No. Can they build our cars high? No. Can they repair your heart? No. Can they stitch your cut? No. What is recreational marijuana going to do to us? Can you learn off of it? Absolutely not. Right? So what our country has done, and it's a fool for approving this, it's fell victim to the capitalistic advantages that people gain from
money.
From this. It's all about money.
But
then let's get to this conspiracy theorist part of me that I don't like to admit. You know, some of the politicians were saying, you know, this is going to help the black man and the black woman from racial discrimination. When they get caught with a dime bag, they go to jail for 10 years. So they use the black man to justify the recreational use of their capitalistic adventure. They use the black man to say, let's get them out of jail. Let's stop them from going to jail and let them buy our weed versus, you know, getting punished for buying a small amount of weed from us. Let's just get them into the market, right? And the same goes for every different society in this country, every single group that represents this country. You know, it is going to be the cause of devastation for this country. Now, are there medicinal benefits from marijuana? Are there? I'm not a doctor to tell you yes or no. But if there is medicinal benefits from marijuana and it's consumed over the narcotic, addictive medications, then I'm okay with it. But to tell me that an 18-year-old now can legally smoke pot, as much pot as they want, and nothing can happen to them, what do you think is going to happen to this country 10 years from now? I can only see a line of future doctors and lawyers and pharmacists and educators? No. I can only see a line out the door of people trying to become career politicians? No. What are we creating, a dumb society? So, yes, they're your kids. You pay for their phone. You can check their phone. You can drug test your kid. We have a question from Samia who says, how do you know if your kids are on drugs? You got to look for different symptoms. You know, are they isolated? Are they out with their friends? Smell their clothes, right? Do they consume a lot of food? Are they on video games a lot? Are they? Have you actually searched their beds and bedroom and found
spending a lot of money,
zigzag rolls or blunt rolls or a bowl to smoke marijuana? Have you found? Are they stealing things from the home? Are they asking for money consistently? Not $5 or $2, $15 or $20 or $30. You know what? Tell me who your friends are. I'll tell you who you are. Ask your families or ask your children. Who are your friends? Meet their families. You have a right to that. There's nothing wrong with that these days. They would respect that. If they approach you with respect, then that's a good family. If the family avoids it, then you got to be careful. You know, you have every right to ask about the social, economical and makeup of a family.
Sure.
To determine whether or not your kids are going to be like-minded.
Right,
you don't have to be discriminatory about what your findings are, but you have a right to ask who your friends are, who your kids' friends are.
Plus, there's nothing wrong with being selective, too. I mean, you know, to choose who you hang out with. Any other questions from Facebook, Ali?
Yes, there's a few.
Please, go ahead.
How can someone be admitted into our rehab center, and is it for free? We'll be opening, inshallah, we'll be opening
Inshallah.
late spring, early summer.
This year?
Yep, we still have
Congratulations.
some fundraising goals to obtain. Inshallah, we'll have those. As I had mentioned, God sent us to this facility, so there's not a single ounce of worry. Now, how do you get someone into rehab? Before we open, if you have or know somebody that's in need of assistance now, we have the resources to provide care for your child, to put them into a rehab center that we have approved, and then post-rehab, we'll put them into an outpatient program as well as a short-term and long-term residential program.
How they get in touch with you guys?
So we have a hotline for the Safe Substance Abuse Coalition, which is 313-615-0196. Again, that's 313-615-0196. You can call this hotline basically 9 to 5. If no one answers, please leave a message with your name and number so we can contact you immediately. Don't be shy. The phone receives a lot of calls. We are shorthanded. We're a volunteer-based entity currently. When we open up this center, the service is going to be for free. We will have every single patient of ours will be covered. Yes, there will be no cost to the families that enter into our facility through Medicaid or through Pioneer-based services that are through the state of Michigan. There's another question from a Mahdi. Some organizations are taking money and doing nothing. Your thoughts? There are a lot of people that are, a lot of organizations that are, utilizing our state, federal, county resources, financial resources, and not able to do what they say they're going to do. And unfortunately, all we can hope for is that,
For them to change.
For them to change,
Yeah.
and that they adhere to the compliance and the regulations of that grant or the funding source, and that the funders themselves do their due diligence and determine whether or not that person or organization is worthy of the funds. Every grant recipient has to provide measurable outcomes and has to determine the success of their programs and should be reporting that to their financial fiduciary agency. Your advice for parents from Rima is another question, Khodr.
Sure.
Again, I mentioned quite a bit of that throughout the program. Again, I appreciate the opportunity, Khodr, for having me here.
And I appreciate you. Appreciate all that you do. Yes.
I appreciate What's Up Media and its leadership, and I appreciate this community tremendously. We have a beautiful community. Our advice for parents in closing is simple. Endless love, endless compassion for your children is a must. Having patience and understanding and using all opportunities to continuously teach your kids is absolutely necessary. In addition to that, parents, please, I beg you, learn as much as you can about the different substances, about the different issues that are arising in the community, at the schools. Be involved, learn, grow, and help everyone that we possibly can help. And I have 8 siblings. I have to be concerned not only for my kids, but for my brother's kids and my sister's kids. They're also my kids. So let's try to strengthen the infrastructure of our household, our family, our block, and our neighborhood, and our schools, and our city, and our community, and hopefully, God willing, inshallah, our entire country and this world. Because everybody's suffering all over the world. So the advice for parents, guys, is I'm not a licensed doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not an addiction specialist. I am someone like you who took the time to learn as much as I can about the field, to help people that asked for help. You can help just as I am helping. We can all help resolve this problem. So thank you again for the time.
Of course. Any more questions or concerns?
No, that was it. That was it.
Well, guys, Ali, thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. I know that 1 hour will never be enough to cover such crucial and instrumental topic and threat that our community has been facing. And of course, we express our deep and sincere condolences to all the families who lost loved ones to this. We hope that they will speak up. They will help others to speak up so we can save other lives. Ali, thank you. We wish you, your family, safe, and everybody who's involved, all the recovered heroes much more success and prosperity. And please, you can rely on us here at What's Up Network and anything that you guys are doing. We'd love to pitch in, especially towards opening this new facility, and wish you much more success with that. That's amazing. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Yep, and likewise, thank you for all
Of
that you're
course.
doing, and What's Up Media, and all the partners that are allowing us to have the platform to relay this very important message.
So thank you so much, Ali, once again. Guys, we come to an end to the last episode. As I mentioned at the very beginning of this show, that this is going to be the last weekly episode. Starting from March, we're going to start airing special episodes. So I will no longer be every single Tuesday. Most likely, it might be on Tuesday, but it might not be too. So don't quote me on that. But yeah, so just so you guys know that next Tuesday I won't be here at 7:30. I'll miss you all. I love you all, and I appreciate your support. All the sponsors that have been supporting me since August, supporting the show: Tahamas Mangoes, Limo Express, Ali Saad, Princess Bakery, as well as Ali Sharara, Century 21, alongside also Sam Baidoon, and a few other sponsors that also pitched in the past 5-6 months. So thank you all so very much. Thanks to What's Up Media Network. Big shout out to Sling Arabic TV, over 130 Arabic channels, BM Sports, Mushahada Plus. To get a free membership for a whole week, all you gotta do is to get in touch with one of the What's Up Media Network staff. Keep it up, guys. I hope that this show was informative throughout the past 5-6 months. We tried our best to bring guests and organizations that are doing such a great job. Sorry if we missed somebody. That's why we're going to have these special episodes, so we can also work on highlighting more positive stories. But again, it won't be weekly. It'll be only once a month. So thank you guys. Wish you the best. Stay warm and have a good night.